Well, hello. Hey everyone, it's Bobby, aka Paginator, and I'm here with my July 2021 reading wrap-up. So I read quite a bit during the month of July. I had 7 books on my official TBR, and I read 18 more. It's summer break. I don't have to work during the day. I'm reading a lot, so there we go. We're going to start with my official TBR books and then go through the other books that I read and call it a day. I'm going to try not to spend too much time on each book because I do have a lot. So, starting with the official TBR books, we have King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender. This is a middle grade book. It is phenomenal. It is definitely going to school with me to be shared with my students. And it is about a young boy whose brother has died tragically, and this boy believes that his brother has become a dragonfly, and so he's constantly going to check on him. And we also find out that there is a friend of his that he kind of unfriended when he found out that this friend was gay. And his older brother had communicated to him, you don't ever want anyone to think you're gay, so you better not be friends with this boy. Well, King, our main character, thinks he might be. He's questioning his sexuality and he doesn't know. So there's a lot going on, including the mourning of his older brother, questioning himself, friendship issues. The one friend that he kind of ghosted runs away and is in danger. So there's lots of things happening, but it's very well done and well handled. And like I said, I am going to be taking this to the school so that those students who are interested can read it. Up next, we have A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. My friend Tori picked this for me to read, and thank you, Tori, is all I can say. I flew through this book. You can see it's quite large. I read it in less than 24 hours. I have the other 2 books in this series, but I haven't picked them up yet because I get really excited and then I read other things and then my attention wanes, but definitely interested in continuing this. This is about Ophelia, who possesses magical abilities. She can see into an object's past, and she can also travel through mirrors. And she becomes betrothed to Thorn, who is a member of a powerful clan from a cold and distant ark. And so we go into like a very polar fantasy kind of setting. We also have a lot of political intrigue in here, secrets, magic, so much involved. And I can't spend forever in this video, so I better just wrap it up at that. But it's very, very, very well done, and I'm super excited to continue the series. Alright, next we have Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. This is the 4th installment in the graphic novel series about 2 boys who start as teammates and fall in love. In this one we have a lot of mental health representation because Nick struggles with depression, and Charlie, his boyfriend, doesn't know how to help him, but he wants to. And it's a really good demonstration of sometimes you're not enough. And it's not your responsibility to take care of your loved one if they're struggling so badly with something. Like, get them help and then let the professionals take over. Like, there are some things that are above your pay grade, especially if you're a kid. Like, you are not responsible for fixing everyone's problems. And this book does a great job of communicating that message. As always, it was very enjoyable. Love this series. It hasn't actually come out in the US. I ordered this copy from Book Depository because it was out in the UK already. So I have no patience. But very good series. Definitely need to read it in order though. So start with Volume 1 if you're thinking about reading it. Then we have Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare. This is the 2nd book in the Eldest Curses series following Magnus Bane and Alec Lightwood. We have a bunch of our familiar characters like Clary and Jace and Isabel and Simon in this book. And because of that, I was a little bit disappointed. I wanted it to be about Magnus and Alec. But it was also at the same time fun to see some of those other characters and just like read some Jace snark or like some Simon and Isabel flirting or whatever. So it was fun, but at the same time, like, this is supposed to be about Alec and Magnus. Like, come on. Interesting story, but not like my favorite book that I read this month. So if you're into the characters and stuff and already invested in them, read the series, but don't let this be your first foray into the Shadowhunter world because you'll be super confused. Also, my official TBR was a nonfiction book called How to Suppress Women's Writing. I DNF'd it. In fact, I even got rid of it because I hated it that much, and so I apologize that I don't have it hold up for you here, but you don't want to read it anyway. It sucks. You're welcome. Next, I had to read a classic or reread a classic, and this was another friend Tori pick, and she picked Jane Eyre. I love this book as always. It's super creepy, and like I get mad at Mr. Rochester every single time because I'm like, dude, you're married. What are you doing? But also, I kind of like empathize with him a bit too, because if he married his first wife and she completely became a different person, like severely unhinged, and he had no way of ending that marriage due to the constraints of the time, like that's something I feel sympathy for. If you aren't familiar with Jane Eyre, you're probably going, what the heck are you talking about? Just read the book. Or like go on Spark Notes and read the summary. Then you'll be like, okay, I get it. And the last book on my official TBR was Potkin and Stubbs #1. This is first in a series by Sophie Green. I posted pictures while I was reading this on Instagram and tagged her, and she was so sweet. She was like, oh my gosh, thank you for reading. And she was really kind in her comments on my Instagram post, so that's kind of fun. This is a mystery series for middle grade about a girl named Lil Potkin who wants to be an investigative reporter, and she really wants to write for this underground newspaper, but she has to prove herself in a really big way because first, she's a girl, and second, she's young. So she's got to get in and figure this out, and she is going to figure out a case that is very popular in the news, and ends up getting some help from this young man, and we find out some things about him later, which might spoil the story for you, so I'm not going to tell you more about him, but they're friends. There's no, like, romancy stuff, because this is a middle grade book, so they're just friends, but good, fun mystery series. Kind of a noir. So that concludes the official TBR books, and then we're going to get into some of the other books that I read during the month of July. So, My Contrary Mary. I did a dedicated book review for this book. It is another from the Lady Janies, Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This is centered around Mary, Queen of Scots, and we return to the world of the Etiennes, which we learned about in My Lady Jane, about Lady Jane Grey. So Mary, Queen of Scots, if you don't know, she was the Queen of Scotland, although she was raised in France, and was engaged to marry the future King of Scotland, the Dauphin, and things kind of went crazy. Watch the Netflix show Reign if you prefer to just watch a show rather than read a book, but also this book is hilarious. Read it. All these flags are moments when I laughed out loud. This hardly ever happens, but these three authors can get me laughing like nobody else's business. Every summer, I reread the Harry Potter books on audio, so in the month of July, I was able to listen to books 5, 6, and 7. And I'm not going to go super detailed into these. These are Harry's later years at Hogwarts and beyond, and we see the Battle of Hogwarts and kind of the end of the series. Hide and Seeker, I'm also not going to hold up for you. I hated this book. It's by Daka Herman. It had such a cool premise. It was like this kid went missing while playing hide and seek, and then he's back, and now his friends are playing hide and seek at his welcome home party, but then they start disappearing. So it's like super creepy, like, and it's a middle grade horror kind of book. I hated it. I thought it was stupid. Like, the execution of the plot, like, hated it. I'm using the word hate here. Hated it. So that copy is like gonzo. I think I put it in a crate to take back to the school and put in my free stuff box for some kid to have. Let's see, Daddy Longlegs. So a while ago I went to the musical Daddy Longlegs and learned that it was based on a book, and I'm like, oh, I want to read this book. This book is entirely told in letters. It's super short, as you can see, and there's not a whole lot of text on the pages as well. This is about a young girl at the John Grier Orphanage, and her name is Judy Abbott. And she has been sponsored by one of the trustees of the school, and he wants to be anonymous, but he's sponsoring her to go to college. And this is during the time when, like, you had to go to a ladies' college, and you still had to wear dresses to school, and there was a lot of, like, I think Anne of Green Gables time period is what we're looking at here. But Judy, she is supposed to write him once a month and report. And the day that he came to bestow this gift to the orphanage, she saw a man leaving who looked very tall and had super long legs. So she starts calling him Daddy Longlegs because she thinks of him as a father figure. He's sponsoring her through college, and he was super tall. So she writes all these letters, and these are her letters to Daddy Longlegs, and they develop a relationship through this book, even though he doesn't write her back. How is that possible, you ask? Read the book. It's so cute. It's like the rom-com, and it's so cute. Just read it. Up next, we went on a voyage across the sea with The Luck of the Titanic by Stacey Lee. I adored this book. This was another super fast read. I tore through it in like a day and a half, maybe, or less. I can't remember, actually, to be honest. This follows a young Chinese English girl who sneaks aboard the Titanic when she's not admitted on, even though she has a ticket, because Chinese people aren't allowed in America. She's half British, though, and she's a person. Who cares? Anyway, she sneaks aboard the Titanic, and her brother is on there with another group of Chinese boys who are being transported via the Titanic down to Cuba. And it's the Titanic, so you can guess what some of the stuff is that's going to go down here. Remember in the Titanic movie when everyone starts to, like, get into the rescue boats and things get crazy? And we were kind of all over the place with Jack and Rose. Same thing here with her. She has to, like, her name's Valora, and she has to go all over the place looking for these people that she's come to befriend and care about and try to save them and, like, get them to safety. And oh my gosh, it's so crazy. This is actually based on a historical event because there were 6 Chinese men on the Titanic, or maybe there were 8. I can't remember. I think it was 6 though. Anyway, if you read the book, you can read Stacey Lee's historical note about that as well. But it was a good read, and as I said, I read it super quickly. Makes me want to read more of Stacey Lee's books for sure. Next up, I read Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the 3rd book in the Morgan Crow series, and I know I'm talking way too much about these books than I said I was going to, so let's just say this. The Hollowpox is a disease that's kind of sweeping the magical world at this time, and Morgan and friends have to do something to stop it. There is a cliffhanger at the end of this book, and I really want to talk to somebody about it, but also I don't want to spoil things for anyone, so I'm just going to have to keep my thoughts to myself till someone I know reads this book and we can chat about it. Next is This Poison Heart by Caleb Barron. This is written by the same author as Cinderella is Dead that I absolutely loved. This is not a fairy tale retelling, but it does involve magic. We have our main character, Briseis, who lives in New York with her 2 moms. She was adopted by a lesbian couple and raised, and they own a flower shop. Briseis has the magical ability to grow plants just by touching them. Not just flowers, but trees and bushes and all kinds of things. And sometimes her powers get a little bit out of control. She doesn't know where they came from, and so when the sister of her birth mother gives her a house that and she inherits it, and it's out in the country with this beautiful garden, family picks up and moves to the country to see if they can solve the mystery of where her powers came from. Good plot twist in this book too. Next we have an adult mystery. This is Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. I read this for G's Patreon book club, and I quite enjoyed it. It's about some septuagenarians, or older people in their 70s in Britain, and they all live at a nursing home or retirement village, I guess you could say, and they meet every Thursday to discuss a murder case, and they end up getting involved in a real one. And we also have some bits narrated by police detectives and such, so there's lots of characters involved. And it was so refreshing to read an adult mystery that I just really enjoyed this. Plus, we got all like the British slang in there, which was fun for me as well. Next, we have Frostheart Escape from Aurora. This is book 2 in the Frostheart series. And we have Ash's adventures continuing as he's trying to find his parents. And we have icy worlds. This is very much polar fantasy. We have different creatures, we have powers, we have illustrations throughout the book. Here's just a randomly opened to illustration here. And Ash, our favorite like messy haired boy right here, is once more with his Frostheart peeps trying to go on this adventure. Alright, so up next we have quite a few audiobooks, and I don't have these to hold up for you, but I can insert pictures as we go along. So we'll start with Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I actually have a copy of this book, but it's in the other room, and do I want to get up and go get it? No. I'll just insert a picture. Anyway, Northanger Abbey is Jane Austen's first book, but it was published last. It is about a young girl named Catherine who goes to Bath with some friends. Bath is a city in England, and she attends these society events, and she meets a family, the Tilneys, and she's super into the brother, Edward Tilney, and they, after some like society things and different stuff happens, they invite her to go back to their home, Northanger Abbey, with them. And after some strange events and some misunderstandings and things, the usual Jane Austen ending happens with a happily ever after between Catherine and Mr. Tilney. And I'm sorry if that's a spoiler to you, but it's a Jane Austen book. You know what's going to happen. The next audiobook that I want to tell you about is Adnan's Story by Rabia Chaudhry. So if you're familiar with the podcast Serial, it's talking about Adnan Syed, who was wrongfully convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend Hayman Lee. And for years, people have been trying to get him out. And Rabia Chaudhry, the author of this book, is a lawyer, and she's also the older sister of Adnan's best friend. She was in law school when this whole thing kind of went down, but since she's graduated, she's devoted a lot of her time and life to trying to get this young man back out of prison. But because the system is kind of messed up, it's taking a long, long time. Anyway, this book is talking about her viewpoint, her experiences, what she's learned from Adnan. She also brings in evidence, some of his own writings, some other things that she's discovered, and talks a lot about where the case is and what's happening. I thought it was fascinating, and shout out to Bookish Chris for recommending this audiobook to me. Thank you so much. Next, we have We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This book's been out forever. It's a YA kind of mystery. Like, I never knew what it was about because people always said, well, you shouldn't know anything going into it. And now that I have read or listened to it, I agree. You shouldn't know anything going into it. So I'll give you this clue. We have a group of rich kids who get into some trouble. And when one of them gets badly hurt, she's trying to remember what exactly happened. And that's all you need to know. Go read it or listen to it. It's a super quick audiobook. It's really fast. So what are you waiting for? And lastly, on the audiobook front, I listened to the first Enola Holmes mystery by Nancy Springer, which was Enola Holmes in the Case of the Missing Marquess. I had read that one before, but I wanted to reread it because I wanted to watch the Enola Holmes movie on Netflix, and I wanted to compare, and it's been years since I read the first book. So I listened to it. It is about Enola Holmes, who is Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes' younger sister. Much younger. They weren't really raised together all that much. And she is kind of abandoned when the mom suddenly disappears. The older brothers are already off in London living their lives, and the mom just ups and leaves. Well, Enola decides to take matters into her own hands, and she's going to go to London, find her mother, and make her own life. But there is a case. This missing Marquess, this young man who has just up and run away, or perhaps been kidnapped. His family's frantic. And so Enola is on the case, and that's all I better tell you about that one. I really enjoyed the movie. They did make the characters, a couple of the characters, Enola and another character, a bit older than they are in the books, but I enjoyed what they did with that. So sometimes when they tweak it a little bit, I don't mind if it's well done. So I quite enjoyed the adaptation. All right, we got 2 more physical books, and then we are done. I don't know if I've covered all of the books I've read, but I've gone by my list in my bullet journal for July, and so we're just following this thing. Anyway, we have a duology for our last two books. We have Malamander and Gargantus by Thomas Taylor, illustrated by Tom Booth. I want to read more books illustrated by Tom Booth, but I don't think there are any, or at least none that I can find. Anyway, Malamander is the first in the series, and then we have Gargantus. The illustrations in the series are quite well done, and as I was reading this, I was visiting family for a little over a week, and my nephew was hanging with me. He's 5, and he was really digging the illustrations. He kept looking at them. He would like come steal the book. And in fact, one time we were sitting outside, like the whole family was outside in the on the lawn, and I was sitting in my lawn chair reading this book, and he comes over and takes it and finds his 2 favorite illustrations in here, and he climbs underneath my lawn chair. So I've got this little tiny 5-year-old under my lawn chair looking at pictures in my book, and I can't read it. It was such a fun read, though. It is about Herbie Lemon, who is the lost and founder at a hotel in the town of Erie-on-Sea, which is a seaside town. In the summertime, it's called Cheery-on-Sea, but every fall when the tourists leave, the C and the H fall off the sign, and it's Erie-on-Sea, and things are kind of eerie there. They have a strange book depository where you go and you make an offering to this monkey robot thing, monkey fish thing, and he picks a book for you. Not the book you want, but the book you need. So books are part of this mystery series, which is super fun. And also we have something show up in the Lost and Found that Herbie has never encountered before, a real life person. Her name is Violet Parma. She's about his age, and they're about 11, 12-ish. There's not a romantic thing because they're kids. She is turning herself into the Lost and Found because she is on the run from some people that are trying to get her. So there's the mystery of Violet. She was left at this hotel when she was a baby and then taken away, and now she's back trying to solve the mystery of where her parents are because she is sure they are still alive. And we also have the myth of the Malamander, a sea monster. This was really fun. I feel like I'm talking too much. There's more to the story, but I need to wrap this crap up. And then the second book is Gargantus. And so we return to Erie-on-Sea. Herbie and Violet are there, and there is massive storms coming in, and people in the town are afraid that the Gargantus is responsible, another monster. So they're going to go on a quest to save the day. Super, super fun duology, and I feel like it's actually not a duology, it's a series, and they're just not, the rest aren't out yet, if I remember correctly. If someone knows and I am wrong, please kindly let me know in the comments. So, that is my reading wrap up for the month of July. I have my bullet journal pages all ready for August, and it is August. It's a few days into August, actually, so I'm already started on my TBR, and we're just chugging along. Can you believe that it's August already? Like, how did we get here? Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this wrap up. If you stuck with me through the end, give me a little like happy face emoji or a book emoji, or if you can't do emojis, because I know one of you doesn't do emojis, give me a little hi there or something to let me know that you stuck through, and you guys have a wonderful, magical, and bookish day. Happy reading! Adios!